because the focus in this bill is on inaccessibility, not non-dischargeability,
Ability.
right? Inaccessibility of the firearm, and we're not qualifying it by saying it's readily dischargeable. So that really is potentially an issue. We are the Arms Attorneys. Today we are talking about the most onerous safe storage bill I have ever seen that is likely about to be signed into law, if not before the airing of this video, could be any second. We're going to talk about where it's located, what the bill says, and why the ACLU is against it.
Yeah.
But before we get started, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting the like button.
I love it when issues make strange bedfellows. I will say the ACLU has not been a friend of the Second Amendment. Just in the past couple of years that I've been monitoring this.
Yeah, it happened recently though. I was up. Were you there that day? You were not there that day. I was up at the Texas Capitol, and there was a bond bill that was up for debate. It was up for hearing in one of the House committees, and we did not like what it would do to self-defense cases. And the ACLU did not like what it would do to illegal aliens. And so there I was on the same side of the issue as a somewhat effete ACLU lobbyist. And, there you have it.
There you have it.
Sometimes legislation makes strange bedfellows. And here we have that in the state of Illinois because we have not just a safe storage bill. What state doesn't have some kind of safe storage?
Well,
everybody's got something on the books.
And yeah, and I'll say some of them are very like, don't have your child have access to a loaded firearm.
Yeah.
Some are like gun, ammo, separate locked containers, very extremo. This one is a little bit weird though.
This is weird. And like Texas is like basically just like, please don't leave loaded firearms out in front of children
unsupervised. Yeah.
Like, I mean, we are at the low end of the spectrum. And even then that our law gets abused and people are prosecuted who do not deserve to be prosecuted. This thing is a beast. This is SB 8. We will link to it below. It is a long bill touching upon many, many different aspects of the law. But I think we'll start with some of the more interesting ones. It changes the definition of who a minor is.
Yeah, it takes that number from 14 to 18.
Yep.
And so, all right, that's a big jump. And I think, to back up just a little bit and why we're talking about this, we talked to all, folks from all over the place. Illinois is a very popular state. Lots of people drive through Illinois, and, if you have a license or a permit issued by your state, even if Illinois doesn't recognize it, because they don't recognize a lot of folks, they do have some provisions when it comes to carrying potentially in a vehicle. And this safe storage law goes way beyond what we've seen in other states and expands to the vehicle, expands, ages. And I think that I just wanted to put that out there and why I think this is so important.
Yes. So let's talk about, because the vehicle, I think, is the source of a lot of consternation amongst, at least the Republicans who objected to this bill. This bill is now passed both the House and Senate in Illinois, and it was transmitted to Governor Pritzker on June 26th. So as of the airing of this video, maybe he signed it. As of the filming, he has not, but
he'll probably sign
he's going to sign it. I mean, like, come on, he's going to sign it. But so what we have here is a provision that says that firearms around individuals who are younger than 18 must be inaccessible. And so the vagueness of this bill, and there's some other things too we'll talk about, has triggered a lot of problems because that's your home, it's any premises, it's your vehicle. And there's some carve-outs there. There's, minors can access firearms for self-defense or defense of the home. Okay, great. Minors can access firearms if they have lawful permission. And that's where we start to see the problems is that, and I will say, give us a break. We are Texas lawyers here, right? So we are interpreting Illinois law in the best way that we can. But my understanding from all the research I've done into this issue is that lawful permissions is extremely vague. And one of the problems that people have with this bill is potentially, I am in my own vehicle. I have my child in the vehicle with me. I have my firearm in my center console or my glove box. Well, does lawful permission cover that? Do I have to lock it up in my own vehicle? And it looks like the answer is yes, because the exceptions to a child possessing a firearm don't include me just being like, hey, I'm the adult and I'm with you and it's cool.
Yeah, and I'll say another rub of this is, typically when you write the law, I mean, you can gut check a lot of this stuff. Hey, it's not lawful to just go up and make physical contact with somebody and cause bodily injury. All right, in your core, you probably understand why that law exists. This law has some kind of kooky things in it that are not common sense, that really jump out at me, like what's considered being locked or inaccessible. Like a cable lock doesn't qualify.
Yeah, that's another thing that they're all saying, right? Which is, again, as Texas lawyers, we are looking and we're interpreting with our best eyes as possible out of state. But it does appear that a cable lock would not be an acceptable safe storage method.
Yeah, the things that gun grabbers want. I mean, how many cable locks do you have sitting around your house?
God,
Every time you buy a gun, you get a cable
Yes.
lock, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it is, it because the focus in this bill is on inaccessibility, not non-dischargeability,
Ability.
right? Inaccessibility of the firearm, and we're not qualifying it by saying it's readily dischargeable. So that really is potentially an issue. So, and that's just, I mean, having to lock away with lock and key a firearm from yourself in the home or the vehicle just because you have a child present with you is dangerous for the gun owner. I mean,
It sounds discriminatory.
what if you need it? If you need it and it's locked up, then what do you do?
Well, I mean, everybody been saying, they out here saying, when seconds count, the police are minutes away, right? Well, the time between when you can offer armed resistance to an attacker, that stuff matters. Putting up barriers, especially barriers that don't necessarily make sense, that's just gonna endanger folks.
Yes, because okay, I'm in the vehicle with my own child, and I have to have it locked away, and I cannot give them the key because then I'm not qualifying for safe storage. Well, then how are they going to access the firearm to help defend me if I'm incapacitated? Because I can't give them the key because then I've broken the safe storage law.
But they're defending you.
But then they would be right. But it's right. So I mean, it's all ridiculous. So this bill does a couple other things. It increases civil penalties for violation. It changes the requirement to report a firearm as being lost or stolen from 72 hours to 48 hours. It has those weird provisions about having the firearm that's not legal in Illinois in your car with you, but it has weird exceptions, and that exception sounds like it would cover out-of-state travelers who would be covered by the firearm.
I'm sure the police on the roadside are going to be able to figure all this stuff out.
I know, right? And it's like, okay, it sounds like it would be people who were covered under FOPA anyway, but so why is that even there with the exception? Does it just mean it's another way for them to make you show up and prove something? I don't know. The whole thing is kooky. In my view, it's a very, very poorly drafted bill. And we haven't even gotten to the worst part and the reason that the ACLU is involved.
Yeah, it's because getting charged with this could cause it's not just think about any low-level criminal offense. It would cause someone to lose their firearm owner's identification card, their FOID. So
Yes.
You're losing your right to carry or even own a firearm within the state, theoretically, if you were charged under this.
Yes. So if you violate the safe storage law, they will take your FOID away, which means that we have deprived you of your opportunity to engage in your Second Amendment right without proving your dangerousness.
Yeah, and that harkens back.
That's what pisses the ACLU off.
Yeah, because that would be, think about Rahimi. Rahimi didn't change anything. Yeah, maybe it did. So, in the Rahimi case, what the court's kind of focus was on, hey, has the government proven dangerousness? If we're going to have infringements to the Second Amendment, not saying I agree with this, just telling you what the court said, there has to be this connection between the prohibition and dangerousness when the government is kind of charging these folks with unlawful possession of firearms. In Rahimi, they said, guess what? The government satisfied its burden, demonstrated that this person was dangerousness. The prohibition on this was on a protective order case. They said, guess what? That prohibition gets to stand. And we're seeing attacks on felons, folks who've been convicted of misdemeanor crimes of domestic violence, and we're going to hopefully see these infringements go away. Because I think if we have a list, we shouldn't have a list. So if we have a list, let's make it as small as humanly possible. But this would seem to violate the Rahimi principle, unless, the government's going to argue making guns accessible to children, that's dangerous, except that this has nothing to do with a readily dischargeable firearm.
Right. This is nothing to do with dangerousness. You can violate this law without even being, in my mind, objectively negligent. So you certainly, and negligence is you can be negligent as hell and never be dangerous.
Sure.
Right? To anyone mostly but yourself. But no, this is...
I'm going to quote you on that.
So this is, and yes, we don't talk about Rahimi, and Rahimi didn't change anything, which is all bullshit, and we all know it, because Rahimi was a poorly decided case, decided on the basis of public outcry in the wake of Bruin, and that's fine for us to say, and it's fine for us to say that Rahimi sucks, but even Rahimi should not let this stand. Hence, ACLU on board, Illinois State Rifle Association opposes it as well. That's the weird bedfellow here. Illinois State Police, the police
neutral
lobbyists are all neutral on it, which is weird to me. It seems like they would be why aren't they pro?
Well,
even the Texas police like to take your guns
I have
away.
A theory, because there's lots of rural areas in Illinois.
That's true.
A majority of their membership opposed it.
Rural, yeah.
Opposed it, but they had one person in Chicago being like, yeah, we need this, then they're going to go neutral.
That's fair. That's fair. That's how it works here too, oftentimes in the sheriff's lobby at least.
Yeah.
So, all right, fair enough. So anyway, this is, again, a dangerous bill for gun owners. It's one that's not going to keep anyone safer than they were before, and it just lays little landmines all over Illinois gun law. I'm sorry, y'all who live in Illinois. We stopped even covering a lot of the bad stuff that's happening to you because it's just depressing. Yeah. It's turns our channel into doom scrolling if we just talk about all the bad stuff that's happening to people in Illinois. But
and I feel bad
but this one is really egregious. This is really egregious.
Well, I feel bad because a lot of people travel through Illinois.
Yes.
There's a lot of great things to see in Illinois. There's a lot of great things that you have to go through Illinois to see. And so I think this is going to jam up a lot of people.
It is. And this isn't we expect, okay, you're going to have an assault weapons ban in Illinois. Sure. High capacity magazines. If you're listening to me, you can't see my eyes roll back when I say these words, but we expect those things. This was unexpected. That's why I insisted to Richard that we cover this. I don't know that it's his favorite.
No. I think it's
law that we've done.
It's important.
This is crazy.
I talk to dozens of people a year who have to drive through Illinois. Yeah.
Anyway, so this is something to be on the lookout for. If you think it would do any good, if you're an Illinois resident, to call the governor's office with your opposition, more power to you, I suppose. But he's a big old billionaire with a vendetta against guns, so I think it's probably set in stone.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And as always, please question and comment for us below. Until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.
Wish this was the 60s and I could just have a cigarette. I'd have my, your paper tucked in around your collar. Let's do it live. All right, you ready for this?
I always sing that song in my head when I'm like, we don't talk about Rahimi.
We don't talk about Rahimi.
No, don't know.